Good day, everyone. We are the Group 6, and for today, we will talk about curriculum localization. But before anything else, let us bow down our heads and feel the presence of our Lord as we sing and pray.
Lead me, Lord, lead me by the hand and make me face the rising sun. Comfort me through all the pain that life may bring. There's no other hope that I can lean upon. Lead me, Lord, lead me on. Walk by me across the lonely road of every day. Take my arms and let your hand show me the way. Show the way to live inside your love. Lead me, Lord, lead me on. Times I'd rather go along my way. Help me take the right direction. Take your road. Lead me, Lord, never leave my side. All my days, all my life, you are my light. You're the lamp upon my feet. All the time, my Lord, I need you there. You are my light. I cannot live alone. Let me stay by your guiding love all through my life. You are my light. You're the lamp upon my feet. All the time, my Lord, I need you there. You are my light. I cannot live alone. Let me stay by your guiding love all through my life, all through my days. Lead me home, Lord. Lead me, Lord.
Alright, so let me introduce to you the presenters. The first one is yours truly, Crystal Ann Parcon. Next is Ma'am Janet Aguado, and then Sir Luke Jericho Vidaya, Ma'am Christine Gain Momo, Ma'am Jennifer Binongo, Ma'am Crystalline Santos, Mr. Noel Gamboa Jr., and Ma'am Crystal Reyes. Alright, let me call on Ma'am Jeanette Aguado for our brain teaser. Are you ready to be riddled? Ma'am Jeanette Aguado, take it away.
Try to answer our riddles. I have keys but no locks. I have space but no rooms. I can enter but I can't go inside. That's right. The answer is a keyboard. For the next riddle, what disappears as soon as you say its name? Correct. The answer is silence. Next, how many letters are in the alphabet? Right. There are 11 letters in the word the alphabet. For the next riddle, what is seen in the middle of March and April that can't be seen at the beginning or end of either month? Correct. The letter R. Next, what's most useful when it's long and hard? Very good. The answer is education.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Jeanette Aguado, for presenting our brain teaser. Okay, so these are the contents of our discussion for today. So the first topic is the curriculum localization. The second one is the importance of curriculum localization. So these first two topics will be discussed by yours truly. And then the third topic is the legal basis. This will be discussed by Mr. Luke Jericho Vidaya. The fourth topic is the examples of curriculum localization. So this will be discussed by Miss Kristen Gain Momo and Miss Jennifer Binongo. The fifth topic is the challenges and opportunities in curriculum localization. This will be discussed by Miss Crystalline Santos and Mr. Noel Gamboa Jr. And our last topic is about the reminders on localization, and this will be discussed by Miss Crystal Reyes. Now, let us proceed with our discussion for today. So as you can see on the screen, there are three phrases. So, learning content, plus sign, local information, plus sign, local materials. So these phrases summarize what a curriculum localization is all about. So when we say learning content plus local information, local materials, these are the ways and how we can implement localization in the curriculum. So for us to better understand what a curriculum localization is all about, I have here three different definitions. So let me read those three. One of the degrees of contextualization, defined as the process of relating learning content specified in the curriculum to local information and materials from the learner's community. The second one, localization, will involve the use of local materials, both as the subject and object of instruction. Localization will also involve making the local culture an integral part of the curriculum. And the third definition is from UNESCO. So, process of defining parts or components of the curriculum at community or local or school level, normally with the involvement of local staff, stakeholders in institutions, so as to address issues that are locally relevant and allow for more meaningful learning experiences. Based on the three different definitions, localization is the way on how we implement a curriculum by relating local information, local materials, and local stakeholders depending on the learner's community. It is just like teaching our students on how to patronize our own. So in the field of education, it is called localization because you will teach your students to use the local materials, local information, relate to the local stakeholders so that the learning experience will be more fun, more effective, and more productive. So why did I say so? Of course, if we are going to teach our students, they are able to provide solution to simple problems in the community. There are different ways in how to localize a curriculum, and one of the examples is the art of questioning. By simply asking a question to your student that is related to their environment, we can say it's about cleanliness. So you can ask your student, what do you think will happen if the people in your community will continue to practice improper garbage disposal? So by that question, your students will realize the importance of cleanliness. They will also realize what will be the effects if the people in the community will throw the garbages anywhere. So the learning starts from that question. Another example is when you teach your students the Philippine folk songs, folk tales, stories. One of the examples that I can think of on localizing a curriculum is the implementation of the K-12, where the medium of instruction is the vernacular language of a specific place. So, from preschool to grade 3 students, if you are living in Visayas region, the medium of instruction even in the modular modality is Bisaya. So that is part of the localization. This way, it will help us to be more comfortable on understanding our own vernacular language because we are now modernized. Sometimes we tend to forget what we are, what we have as a Filipino. So localization is very important, especially that we are now in the 21st century because now we are very dependent to technology. We are so into globalization. So localization is the way in how we preserve our culture, is the way in how we patronize our own. Okay, so let's now proceed to the importance of curriculum localization. So the curriculum localization can allow learning to become more meaningful and relevant. So this is already mentioned earlier. It supports policy formulation and standard setting for reform of the curriculum and the impact of this on teachers' skills and knowledge. So as they say, teaching is a continuous learning process. So yeah, that's very true because you cannot give something that you don't have. So as a teacher, you need to be knowledgeable enough so that you will be able to teach your students well. So as you go on teaching, of course, you're learning something from it. Can you still follow, guys? I hope that my discussion is clear. Okay, so I have here a question. Why do we need to localize and contextualize the curriculum and the use of learning materials? So we can see here cultural diversity, geography, and individuality. So let me just read the depth admission for the culture-based education. So this is just an additional information that is related to our topic for today. Okay, so to protect and promote the rights of every Filipino to quality, equitable, culture-based, and complete basic education, where students learn in a child-friendly, gender-sensitive, safe, and motivating environment. Teachers facilitate learning and constantly nurture every learner. Administrators and staff as stewards of the institution ensure an enabling and supportive environment for effective learning to happen. Family, community, and other stakeholders are actively engaged and share responsibility for developing lifelong learners. Okay, so that is the definition for a culture-based education. So this is something that we can relate to our discussion for today about the localization in the curriculum. So localization is really not new to the students or the teachers in the 21st century. So now we have to answer the question earlier. And actually, answering this, we can look at the macro perspectives, and the answers are embodied in the acronym CGI. So that is the reason why I included 3 pictures earlier. The CGI stands for cultural diversity, geography, and individuality. So when we talk about cultural diversity, it's undeniable that Philippines is a culturally diverse country. In fact, we are really one of the most diverse cultures in the world. Our culture is actually attributed to the fact that it's a melting pot of other foreign cultures, and that is the reason why we have a very evident difference of cultural orientation. So these differences brought influence to our needs, our interests, and experiences. Let us talk about geography and people or individuality. So the curriculum is alive. It changes depending who is implementing it, where and when it is implemented. So as USEC Dinao Campus said, in order for you to localize and contextualize the curriculum, you have to think of where you are so that you can make the curriculum relevant to you. So this is localization. So you are relating the things that are available in the student's environment in the curriculum that you are implementing, so that you will make the learning experience more productive, more effective, and of course, more fun. So when we localize the curriculum, we of course agree to it. So this means that the different areas in the country will also use different materials. They will use different instruments so that they can deliver the standards of the curriculum. So that's it. If you are located in a different area, of course, you have different materials or learning materials compared to other places. If your student is living in the province, for example, you will be letting your student count 1 to 10. You can ask her to pick some leaves, and then you will let her demonstrate the counting of numbers from 1 to 10. And of course, if a student is living in the city, you can't let her or him use leaves in counting numbers, because all that we can see in the city are buildings, vehicles, traffic. Not all the things we can see in the province are available in the city. And not all the things in the city are available in the province. So it is very important to consider the community, the locality, the environment of our student, so that they can relate to our discussion. Okay, so now let me call on Mr. Luke Jericho Vidaya to discuss the legal basis.
Good day. I'm Luke Jericho Vidaya, and I will discuss about the legal basis. We have been talking about the curriculum for a long time now, but have you ever thought about the law that backs it up? If yes, then you are lucky, because today we are going to talk about the Republic 10533, which also known as the Enhanced Basic Act of 2013. This Republic Act talks about many things that evolved our curriculum, for setting the appropriate age of a grade level, to changing the curriculum to being learner-oriented, But the most notable one is the implementation of the K-12 program. Today we are going to focus on how this curriculum shall be flexible so that all schools and students can adapt to it. Next slide please. The first thing that we are going to discuss is the section 10.2 of the law. I am going to read what is on the screen. Section 10.2, the implementation and regulations of the Republic Act 10533. The curriculum shall be contextualized and global. The curriculum shall be flexible enough to enable and allow schools to localize, indigenize, and enhance the curriculum based on their respective educational and social contexts, meaning that the law mandates that the curriculum shall be flexible enough to fit in every conditions of school and students in the country. For example, the curriculum works here in the Metro Manila where living is more modernized. But that's not enough because it must also work in rural places in the country. Next slide, please. Here, as you can see, we have Article 14, Section 5. And I am also going to read what's on the screen. Article 14, Section 5, which states that the state shall take into account the regional and sectoral needs and conditions and shall encourage local planning in the development of educational policies and programs. This part of the report talks also about how the curriculum must be flexible and shall take into account the different sectoral and regional needs of a school. This is to encourage the teachers to build a better plan to implement the curriculum so that every student can learn on their very own culture and shall strengthen their sense of identity. Next slide, please. Now, we have the localization and contextualization. Article 14, Section 14 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, which states that the state shall foster the preservation, enrichment, and dynamic evolution of a Philippine national culture based on the principle of unity in diversity in a climate of free artistic and intellectual expression. Here, you might be wondering what a 2013 law shall do with the Philippines Constitution that was made in 1987. The Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013 is strengthening the current law that we have, which states that every intellectual person, which the laws pertaining to us students, shall embody the Filipino culture based on the principle of their places. That in every curriculum that we are using, it must not tamper, but strengthen the identity of our own culture. That is all for my part. Now we are going to move on with the next reporter.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vidaya. So now let us proceed to the examples of curriculum localization, and this will be discussed by Miss Kristen Gain Momo and Miss Jennifer Binongo. Girls, take it away.
The nature with local examples engage students since it builds their sense of place and helps students make connection between what they learn and their everyday experience. Local examples, including those on campus and surroundings community, often offer rich collections of opportunity for students to apply their classroom knowledge into world issues. We need to use names, place, and events in the question or problem solving for students make relate.
Local materials are used as often as possible in making instructional materials. It means the materials that you will use in your teaching should only be available within the community. Number 4. Local stories are used in the language learning areas. It means the story must be local or from the community so that the students are relatively familiar. Number 5. Translating a story written in another language to the language of one's learners for use in MTB MLE. It means different stories from the another language can be translated into language of the community that you are teaching.
Thank you so much, ladies. So now, let us talk about the challenges and opportunities in curriculum localization. So this will be discussed by Ms. Crystalline Santos and Mr. Noel Gamboa Jr.
Good day, everyone, and now we are going to discuss about some of the challenges and opportunities in curriculum localization. So the first one, when embarking on a process of localization, educators at all levels in an education system are required to adopt additional responsibilities, new roles, and perform familiar tasks in different ways. So yeah, so the educators or all of the teachers at all levels of an educational system, they are expected to take on new duties, new roles, and also they're expected to execute familiar tasks in varieties of ways while embarking on a process of localization. So we have the second one. The role and definition of expert is changed as the system and the individuals within it become learners to varying extent. Yeah, so according to it, as the system and individuals within it become learners to varied extent, the role and definition of expert is changes. So the third one, it is important to acknowledge the advance that such process will be stressful, frustrating, and at the times difficult, but one hopes ultimately be rewarding and positive. So it is also critical to recognize ahead of time that such a process will be stressful, irritating, and challenging at all times. But according to it, it is also, on the other hand, it is also rewarding and have a positive result.
If the education system is seen as a learning organization and the individuals within it as learners, the role of the policymaker and implementer becomes one of facilitating change and building capacity throughout the system. To simply put, if the educational system is seen as an organization skilled at creating, acquiring, and transferring knowledge, and, and at modifying its behavior to reflect new ideas and insights. The role of the im- policymaker is to provide an adequate support um, for the system, just like books, modules, etc. Because the one will receive it is the learners itself, and the implementers should change for the better and make more innovative ideas in improving the curriculum that is for every school or for every learners, that is fit for every learners and for every school. So for the next one, effective localization processes demand both a clear articulation of policy and a sympathetic understanding of the new demands on individuals and organization. For example, you want to adapt a curriculum that or localize a curriculum that is used in Japan and implement it to a school in our country. So in order to have a an effective uh, localization process to happen, you must have a clear articulation about the policies and explain it in the most understandable way to the key players of the curriculum. And also it also says that you should have a sympathetic understanding. In simple words, it means that thinking about the situation of the involved people, just like the individuals and the organizations involved in the curriculum, because some schools are not capable of implementing a curriculum that is so advanced, so that you will use some materials that is near in the vicinity so that you can make learning and the curriculum more meaningful and relevant to the place where you want to implement it. So next, areas where capacity is not adequate to deal with new demands need to be identified in advance and given the support necessary to fulfill the expectations of the policymakers and of the public. For example, you want to localize a curriculum in a specific area. You should consider the learning environment that is needed for that particular curriculum you want to adapt. And because some curriculum is not suitable for everyone or for every school. Just it is just like building a laboratory that may used by the grade 11 students for their experimentations, um, and that school is not capable of occupying one or making one, um, and it is included to that particular you want to implement or you want to adapt. um, you must identify and address it beforehand, so in order to get some help from authorities and some stakeholders, um, this will provide the necessary support in making an alternative laboratory, and that is made from materials locally and it is at a community level. By identifying it beforehand, you can get some aid to the private sectors, just like for example private sectors, in providing the materials needed in the laboratory. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much. So now let us talk about reminders on localization. Let me call on Miss Cristel Reyes to discuss this topic.
Okay, now let's discuss some reminders on localization. First, localization and contextualization can be done in all the learning areas. So it means that localization is flexible or limitless. So it is available not only on one subject but rather on all learning areas or subjects. Number 2, localization maximizes the use of available materials. Okay, in localization, we are going to use all of our resources. So it means that some local resources or environment will not go to waste. Third, to contextualize, teachers must use authentic materials. So when we say authentic, it is original. Okay? So as I have said, we're going to use local environment. And also, to contextualize, it anchor teaching on the context of learners' lives. So, in localization, we are going to give importance on the learners' lives and not only on academic related subjects. Okay, fourth, teachers should encourage students to pose problems and issues and use strategies to address this. Okay, in localization, we encourage our students to present some problems or issues, but they will give solution on their own. So it will be an advantage because it can improve their critical and logical thinking. Okay, next, the localized or contextualized curriculum is based on local needs and relevance for the learners. So it means that we are going to focus on the needs of the students. So it is an advantage because we can have an ideas on what we're going to teach. Okay, thus allowing for its flexibility and creativity in the lessons. So as I have said earlier, localization is very flexible because it does not focus on only one subject but rather on all learning areas. Okay, last, teachers must build on what resources the school have. So since localization maximizes a local environment or local materials, we are going to use the resources on the school. Okay? And also, teachers must accommodate and respect cultural, linguistic, and racial diversity. So since we have different students that came from different places, we expect that they have also different cultures, language, and race. So we must accommodate them based on their differences. We should not be biased, and let us be holistic in viewing them so that we can treat them equally. Okay, so that's all. Thank you for listening, and I hope that
you have learned something from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. So all of the things being discussed earlier are very true. But we also need to remember that we are stressing that localization is not only about localizing the materials, okay? So when we have to talk of how to localize and contextualize, there are really different ways in how to do it, and depending on the forms. For example, the competency, the activity, the assessment, the subject, or the program. So localization can be simple and complex. Localization and contextualization cut across the phases of learning. So there are different tools that we can use in contextualizing. There are varied ways on how to contextualize and localize. So development of materials for contextualization and localization can be done so that you will make the teaching and learning process more meaningful to your students. Okay, so before we end our discussion for today, we have here a quotation from Malcolm X. I know some of you are familiar with this. So it says, "Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today." So as future educators, it is very important for us to study hard, for us to be knowledgeable enough so that when the time comes that we will be teaching our own students, we will be able to inculcate in their minds the things that are necessary to have a brighter future. There is no other profession without a teacher. As one of them in the future, we really need to focus in our studies so that we can produce a brighter future for the future generations. That is all for our discussion for today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you and